directly after that, I'll ask you to please tell us a little bit more about yourselves and your business. And then you just go, and then I'll just continue on with the questions. I stay very close to the questions that I give you. I don't like surprises, so I don't like doing surprises for other people. But come to the interview with Halimah, and I'm going to stay on that. All right. So, let me take one or two. So, yeah, it gives us about 10 minutes to wait. Have you guys used StreamYard before?
Yeah, we do it all the time.
I feel like it's the smartest thing that they ever could have been.
Thank you.
So, for the Hijabi Society, which is where the Hijabipreneur podcast comes from, it's a community of Muslims and Muslim women mostly, but I like to bring topics that I know that either they're going through or that are important to them. All right. And if we experience any breaks, any lags, or whatever the case may be, just keep going. It'll come back, or we'll just continue on, and I'll flip it out for the audio portion. For the video portion will just stay the way that it is, but the audio I'll flip up and show up. All right. So we are going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Hijabipreneur podcast. This is episode 76, How to Thrive in an Unconventional Relationship. So this is season 6. In this season, we will be talking about the various types of relationships we have and how they are all intertwined. Today's guests are a trio of relationship coaches teaching singles and couples how to have successful relationships, including those in polygamy. I'm excited about this conversation. So join me today, inshallah, as I chat with coaches Nyla, Nazir, and Fatimah. And they're sitting in order, so I actually like you guys. I love it. Sitting in that order for all of you. So, Jazakallah for bringing me on. Again, I wanted to have this conversation with all of you, and I think this particular season we're focused on relationships. So you guys know I talk about business, but there are the relationships that are outside of the business that impact the business, and so I wanted to dive into that for season 6, inshallah. So you guys are kicking off. Please tell us a little bit more about yourselves and then come together forming outstanding relationships, inshallah.
Okay, good stuff. I guess I'll start. Being the imam of the family, but we are the founders of Outstanding Personal Relationships. Coach Fatimah and I have been married now over 27 years, and Coach Nyla and I have been married for 12 years. So we practice polygyny, which means a man having multiple wives, which is under the umbrella of polygamy. And we have 12 children total. I have 10 biological children and 2 bonus children with Coach Nyla. Bonus children, a better, more loving term than stepchild, if that makes sense. Okay, so a little bit about our story is that I met Coach Fatimah when I was 14 years old, a high school sweetheart and stuff like that. And 5 years after I met her, we got married, and I met Coach Nyla my mid-30s through business, actually, some business stuff on her. So she knew our family and so on, and ended up becoming Muslim and getting married. And she'll share that, I guess. But nevertheless, we got married a little over 12 years ago, and decided that, since we didn't have a lot of resources, the road was rocky, going to and fro, and a lot of stuff going on, that, after we figured it out, after we reverse engineered some things and put best practices and things in play after investing in ourselves, we had to weigh, do we keep the success of it to ourselves, like most successful polygynous couples or people that practice polygamy, or do we go ahead and benefit other people? And we chose the latter because the Prophet ﷺ let us know that Allah Ta'ala says the people Allah loves the most are the ones who benefit the most people. So that was our drive, and then we ended up forming Outstanding Personal Relationships a few years after that, and growing and really empowering people, especially in this space where it's overlooked, but it's an ancient solution to a modern day problem. And of course, the all wise would not have allowed it and be permissible if there was not a lot of wisdom behind it. And I'm the person who chose to practice polygyny, because the wives don't practice it. I practice it with them. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Listen, I'm going to dive into that a little bit later, but we're going to hear from Coach Nyla and Coach Fatimah first. But I want to touch on that part right there, that he practices polygyny. Listen, okay, I hear you.
I'm like, huh? I was trying to lump it all in there together, so that didn't work. Anywho, yes, hey, it's late. Anyway, all jokes aside, yes, Coach Nazir is correct in what he was saying about how OPR started. I didn't think it would turn into this, but I was in the arena of coaching women. But then I was thinking, I'm like, I can't be nobody's polygyny coach because I ain't trying to be in polygyny with nobody. So, but a good friend saw more in me than I saw myself, and she said, I think this is your calling. I think this is something that's beneficial, because she actually brought a woman to me at a coffee house, another sister, and the both of them were just sitting there, and she said, I think when I got done, and she was like, I think this is your calling. Like, I know you don't want it to be, but I think it is. So I embraced it after that. I'm like, you know what? I need to do this work, because all three of us have heavily invested in personal development, wellness, and just growth over years and years and years. So to just come together and just focus on helping other people mattered to the three of us, maybe at different times, but indeed to the three of us. And then it just really secured the strength of our family, which comes first and foremost for me. It's always a good one.
Well, a little bit about me. I was born. No, I was just playing.
Little tip.
But Coach Nyla kind of got into it a little bit when he was talking about, how we formed OPR and different things like that, and even going into the practice of polygyny aspect, because we'll get a number of questions that are like, well, you chose this, or why did you marry a married man, and all these other things like that. I was married before, so sometimes when people don't understand, they think that just because you're an incoming wife that you don't understand what monogamy looks like. So that was kind of the thing for me. Married, divorced, had 2 children by the time I got married again in polygyny. So, and as Coach Nyla said before, I knew the family. I knew them through business. I used to coach women myself, and I still do, of course. But then actually before then, my first business that I ever got into was in network marketing. So it was pretty cool. And over time, I actually met them. I knew them, met them. So I wasn't thinking about polygyny, wasn't thinking about them as a family or anything like that. I married, divorced, knew that polygyny was an option in Islam. I knew that. I knew that before I even converted to Islam, because people would always tell me when I was studying that, that husbands can have more than one wife. Do you know? And it was so interesting to me. I'm like, y'all don't know anything else about Islam. That's one thing So I'm like, and I said, you know what? Let me find out more about that. Even though I wasn't even looking at the time. This was before I became Muslim, before I converted. But I still wanted to know, if people are telling me something about the religion or the way of life that I'm studying, I want to study more about it. So I want to see if they're true, if they're, what's true, what's not, and everything like that. So I knew that was a thing before I even thought about being in polygyny, but knowing that was an option, and knowing that Coach Nyla was a great leader, great father, husband, all that stuff. When you see people that they're showing you what it is, it's a lot easier when you can see what people are doing. And the family I loved. So I mean, just by, what I've experienced and, what I've seen from a distance and, just what I experienced the time that I was able to experience it. So, that's kind of the long and the short of it, kind of how it started, with me. Actually, I do tell people though, make sure, you get your wali, wakiller involved, because that's, pretty much what I did. And, like I always tell people, he could have said no.
That's what I said.
I
said the same thing.
So, so when people do that and people kind of look into polygyny, and it's like, it seems as though that someone comes in and is trying to wreck a family, or they're trying to manipulate some things, you have to understand that the man is the one who makes the decision. And of course, Coach Nyla started that when he was like, it was my decision to practice it. So people got to understand that as well, that it is the man's decisions. But that's kind of how that started.
Mashallah. I mean, y'all's intro, we could just leave it there. We could cut the interview off. So you guys said a mouthful, and I'm just going to quickly recap because you guys said a lot. And just from Coach Nazir's intro, is the man decides to practice polygyny. And I'm going to tell you why, for me, that I've never been in a polygynous relationship. But why that is the most important thing that he could have said is because, to me, when I see relationships that don't work, I don't look to the women, whether it's 2 or 3 or 4 that are in it. I look to what is the brother doing? Like, what is the husband? Because I feel like you as the man, you set the tone, and I feel like you are the owner of whether there's some risk and all of that. So one of the questions that we have, I feel we'll go further into that, but I also wanted to speak to the personal development piece because it sounds like individually there was personal development for each of you, but then I want to talk about also the development as the trio. So as the trio, inshallah. So what does the individual personal development look like for those who are in polygyny? And I want to talk about that specifically because I feel like that needs to happen. And tell me if I'm wrong.
No, absolutely. Here's the challenge. It's not just what does it look like in polygyny. We'll tell you that part. The issue is that we are not taught that in general throughout life. We have to discover it or come across it or have somebody else introduce us to it. There's not a personal development class after graduation from high school or middle school, or so we deal with people who talk all the time that just because you may be post-pubescent doesn't necessarily make you a man or a woman. Right. So we're dealing with grown adults, 20, 30, 40, 50 years old with the maturity levels of 5-year-olds, toddlers, or adolescents. So thankfully, when I was a teenager, I got introduced to a book. I think my first personal development book was The Magic of Thinking Big. And it was dealing with Amway and learning different business models and stuff like that. Because entrepreneurship, you have to grow yourself. But one of the quotes that stuck with me back then, that was attributed to Mark Twain. I don't know if it's true or not. He said it, but it said, never let schooling interfere with your education. And my mentor, 2-time felon, had a heart attack, smoking crack when he was a teenager. I mean, really, really bad story. Today makes multiple 6 figures a month. Okay. So, he told me, your past doesn't equal your future. So he started dropping these little philosophies on me, and I got some cassette tapes, because that's how old it was back in the 90s, some cassette tapes, and started listening to these, started learning philosophies my parents didn't know and didn't teach me. No one around, and I was the one they said by the time you're 21, you'll be locked up or dead. That's the route I was on at the time. We all were born into Christian families. We all accepted Islam. Later on in life, I was in my teens and so on. But so somebody had to drop some seeds on us, right? So with those seeds, you got to kind of learn that it's a planting process. So with personal development, you got to plant good seed. You have to cultivate, and then comes the harvest. So it's over time. So what it looks like now is totally different. I mean, going through a couple books a week, whatnot, now on Audible, it's so easy. But I was told 3 things, and I'm gonna be quiet because we got to hear from the ladies. Everybody's journey is different, but I was told 3 things. You got to change your life more than anything else. My mentor said, 1, it's the books you read. The books you read, because these things drop, these principles and everything else. The books you read, the audios that you listen to. how you're feeling. She like cut off music, turn that stuff on. It's bubble gum for your ears. All right. And the people that you hang around, he said, if you hang around 5 broke people, you're bound to be the 6th. You know, so he said these 3 things. He said, always remember that success leaves clues. So personal development for me, since I came from a background of poverty, my mother is Puerto Rican, my father's Black. So I might speak a little fast. That's that Boricua side coming out. But I knew that I didn't want what my parents had. My father was working. He wasn't there most of the time before they got divorced. You know, I saw different things going on. So I'm like, I didn't want that. So I grabbed on to mentors that could relate to me. And they started putting me in different books and told me to read. And then when I, you know, learning about Islam and knowing the first word of Quran that was revealed was Iqra. You know, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, right? From Surah Iqra. So with that, I'm like, I'm in it. I'm dedicated to it. And I had to change me, and that changed everything around me. So that was kind of my story with personal development. You know, talk about
that is so important, and I like that you brought up that particular surah and literally the first revelation. And I think, you know, so the main audience that we have for women, and that is one of the things that I encourage them is that, like you said, seeking that knowledge. You know, it's not even now today. It's not even just reading. It's like you said, it's the audio. It's the people that you hang around. For you guys that come from network marketing, that come from personal development, it truly is. You know, your business is built on the people that you are around. Your network becomes your network. And
Yes.
the thing I love, I already know. The thing I love about business and being and having an entrepreneurial mindset is that you can bring what is in entrepreneurship, you can bring into your life. And the beauty of this is that it's such a practical way of life that all you gotta do is, like you said, sort of box it up, put it on business, go read sort of MashaAllah, would love to hear from either Coach Nyla or Coach Fatimah. Same question.
We do a coin toss. One thing that it looked like for me was that I had to make sure that I was being a good mentor to my daughters. And I didn't want them to think that their father had to come home, share with me what he found through personal development, fix me, and then, you know, I can get in the game, right? I had to show them that, no, I get in the game because he's living life as a Muslim man and I'm living my life as a Muslim. So our lives look very different. So fatherhood and motherhood intersect. However, they're different. They're very different. And because we raised girls first, they had to look at me and go, okay, now what are you going to do? And I'll tell you why very quickly. This is important, especially when they're very young. When we were flying over here, there was a family in a row next to us. And the little girl said, Daddy, what do you do? And he said, I'm a doctor. And she knew that. She said, well, Mommy, what do you do? And she said, I'm like at home. She said, but what do you do? And she just couldn't say anything. She said, because Mommy, you need to be somebody too. And that little girl was probably 4 or 5 years old, at least 5. And I said, woo, right? That with the turbulence almost took me out. I was like, wow. Because you see how young she was watching what was going on in her household as a 5-year-old. So I knew if my children had sight, I wanted them to not just see me be busy, but be productive. Because there's a big difference between being busy and doing a bunch of stuff and not producing. So if I'm going to co-found and establish a family, then I need to be one of the mentors in the family. So that's the way I looked at it. And my personal development journey started there. And I didn't just look, although the Quran and the Sunnah, we need it so much because that's the blueprint that we need. I looked in other books as well, you know, because sometimes as Muslims, we go, well, if it's not here, then I don't want anything to do with it. You pick the book up, read it, and what is outside the perimeter of Islam, you leave it. That's it. And then take the beneficial knowledge and apply it. Don't just read it, apply it. So that's what it was for me.
I love it, MashaAllah. And just to touch on what you just said, that yes, the Quran and Sunnah apparently stuff out of air. Like you said, success leaves schools. Allah is the definition of success. He leaves schools. He gives us the inclination to put pen to paper. So yes, we can, take from these books, and as you said, take the good of it and leave off the rest. I mean, right? I love it.
Well, there's a hadith. There's a hadith even a little bit more where the Prophet ﷺ said, the word of wisdom is the lost property of the believer. Wherever he finds it, he's most deserving of it. In Sunnah al-Timrid. So that addresses it. So whether you're dealing with astronomy or learning about biology or whatever it may be, again, the word of wisdom is the lost property of the movement. And that's what caused the Muslims to be at their pinnacle and to spread and to grow in our glorious, illustrious history. And if we want to look at the failure now, we could also look at that lack of that personal development and where we are as an ummah, in my opinion. But I'm sorry, I think Coach Nyla was about to speak.
Yeah, my intentional personal development came with being in the network marketing field. And I say intentional personal development because you learn a lot of things through life. You learn a lot of things through schooling and things that you just take, and it does allow you to be a better person. But it's just, you just take it as it is, and you keep moving on, and you do the thing, and you just do the thing, right? But being intentional about it was realizing that I actually had to unlearn a lot of things that I was taught growing up. I had to unlearn things that not only that I was taught growing up, but that I just happened to just see and take in. And that was affecting my life in ways that were not as beneficial as they should have been. Or, how you have certain things that are needle movers that, move you a lot faster to your goal than than you are moving to. So you have to learn what are the things that's going to do that. And you also have to unlearn the things that are holding you back. So knowing that, and I didn't learn that until I was in my first business ever. Well, I'm going now. I would say my first business ever, but my first business ever was actually in high school. They kind of did something like that, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. So for my first real business was they encouraged that personal development. And in how I grew up, kind of personal development was called self-help. And self-help was not okay. It's like you had a problem. You had some issues, in that type of thing. So being able to say, oh, well, this is something that you should be doing. This is something that you should be intentional. This is something to help you become better, become a better you, become, better in your relationships, in your life and everything like that. And then I love reading and taking in information anyway. So I'm like, okay, what else can I learn? What else can I learn? But it took so long. I actually had a Tony Robbins program that I got from, this is crazy, I got from a thrift store. And it was cassette, talk about, we always talk about cassettes, the 30-day program. And it sat on my shelf for 2 years. 2 years before I opened it. I actually had it before I got into the business that I was in. And I was like, you know what? Let me open it. It was day 5 of that program that I had this breakthrough, that I sat in my car, cried, everything like that. And I said, you know what? I had to be better. That's when I knew for sure that it's like, you know what I'm doing right now is not going to get me to what I want. So I need to change that. So that was the intentional start of my personal development journey.
MashaAllah, listen, I mean, all roads lead back to Tony
Right.
OG, triple OG.
You know what I like about what you just said, Coach Nyla? We're all in coaching, right? And we can probably speak to the same concept, or the same thing that we speak. And that is that people sit on information or sit on the action to go get the information, click the button,
Yeah.
this ad 20 times, click the button, right?
Make it.
This is all questions, but I think it's something that we need to have answered. Why do you think that is? Why do you sit on that information for 2 years? Why do you just sit there? I'm sure
Why? Why you do that?
me, you know, I mean, it's, you can have a fear. Well, with me, you know, it's different things. The fear of the unknown. That I thought it was actually a good idea. I heard about Tony Robbins. I just, you know, didn't open it up. And mind you, like I said, it was in a plastic everything, 2 years. And you know, you quote unquote let life get in the way, and then you're just like, okay, I'm just doing this. I'm existing. You know, you're doing the thing. You're busy, like Coach Fatimah said. You know, you want to be productive. You know, don't be busy, but be productive. But we hear people say that a lot. I'm busy. I'm busy. I'm busy. I'm too busy. And it just has to take something. And we talked about it and heard it. You know, the POD. You know, the point of decision or the point of discuss. Where you're like, you know, it got to be something different. It has to be something different. So, you know, until you get to that point, you know, you won't change. You know, until you get to a point of decision or a point of discuss, you won't change. And I wasn't there yet. So I had to, even though I had the information, even though I physically bought the information, I went out and did it because I saw it. I was like, oh, this seemed like it would be something good to watch or listen to or whatever. And I didn't do it, but it's just that I wasn't ready. You know, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. The teacher was always there. I just wasn't ready to receive the information yet.
I want to chime in on that too, kind of going into why. Because one of my mentors asked the same question. And he said, you know what? This is why. Because at the end of the day, he described success and failure. He said, success is practicing the simple disciplines on a daily basis. And failure is making little errors in judgment on a daily basis. So imagine this. A person picked up a cigarette, they smoked it. End of the day, they can't breathe, having asthma issues and all that, and they trace back to the cigarette. The next day, be done. See, failure doesn't happen at the end of the day. You don't have catastrophe at the end of the day because you didn't get up, you didn't put in work, you didn't make the calls, you didn't get the education. It doesn't happen. It sneaks on you slowly. So it's not the first cigarette that's going to kill you and give you lung cancer, like what happened to my father, right? He started at 16. A year from now, you know, I'll be 47. He died when he was 47. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't the first one. It was probably the 257,000th one, if that makes sense. So the little errors in judgment that happen over time, that's why. Because it's easy to do, but it's also easy not to do. So that's why less than 10% of the people never get past the first chapter of that personal development book. We want it now. We want it immediately. Now we're in the internet age. We're in the scroll age. You can't even keep my attention. How many people are join the stream and then leave without getting the jewels because it's free 99? You know what I'm saying? So we had to learn that it is the little things over time that make the difference. It's like going to the gym. Oh, the gym don't work. You go one time. Okay. But if you go one time a few times a week, you spend, 5 hours in the gym for the month versus 5 hours in one day. That's life stuff. When we get older, think we can intellectualize and rationalize it, but we losing the babies who don't hear no and the can'ts and all the stuff, and they achieve so much till the world beats them down and they accept it. So anyway, that's all that for. We're not getting to a training, but that's what my mentor told me. It's the little things.
Sounds like on that, particular vein, but I truly wanted to talk to you guys and have you answer that question about the whole personal development piece individually and collectively, as a trio, because literally that sets the stage for everything else.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Period.
Yes.
Go ahead, Sister Fatimah.
That's it. And people ask us all the time, especially me, because, they did something to me, and I'm like, no. First of all, let's get that out there. Let's do a little house cleaning, y'all. Do we have to, as Muslims, we're so focused on the distractions of this world versus the qadar Allah. We either intentionally or unintentionally diminish the qadar Allah and disrespect it. And then we go, well, if this hadn't happened and they wouldn't be here and these kids, and and I always say carry the two and the woo, right? Instead of focusing that energy, that good energy on a good area of life, they go, oh, how did you do? And they want to jump over personal development and personal accountability. We like to say we grown in our community. Well, then we need to act like that, right? We need to act grown. We need to do what grown people do. And then ultimately we can do what kings and queens do, because what is that quote? Your past doesn't need you, your future does. So when are we going to start working on our future? How much more time do we have to work on our future? And I started thinking about time and how old I was and how long I've been married, and were my kids going to sit and stay at this size, or were they going to grow? And if they were going to grow, I needed to grow too. So I had to understand the power of the Qadr of Allah, and I didn't have time because I don't own time, and I need to work and start working hard and start working now. Because once we're doing our personal development work, they separate in the fact that they need to do personal development work in order to heal. They want to jump over to the healing. Can't do that. It's steps to this. So we have to respect all the steps in order to get the brass ring of the reward. And we're still working. Personal development work does not stop. It never stops. You never get there and go, I'm good, I'm here. You know.
Quick question I want to tag on that, Fatimah, is the healing. Like you said, the personal development part is ongoing. Do you think that the healing process is ongoing too? Do you think that there's an ED ever at the end of the word heal? Is it healed, or is it always healing?
I think it kind of depends on the person and at the rate they're going. But I don't want to, for me personally, I don't want to just say, I'm healing, because then I got to revisit trauma, because those words, again, intersect all the time. So I like to lead with in the morning, okay, I healed over here, now I'm going to go over here, heal on this, and I'm just going to keep going in different areas. But I might be done with I have to heal from the gossip. I've been done with that years ago. Come on with it, right? So come at me with it, but you be ready to take that L when I come back at you, because see, I healed from the gossip part, right? Or the not knowing part, because then I embrace the Qadr of Allah. So I don't sit in that. I don't stay there, because that's done for me. I think it just depends on the decision that a person gets. You got to make a decision to heal. Some people want to be the victim because they get attention, but I want attention because I healed, not because I'm hurting. That's the difference. So that decision lies within the person, because nobody's what you going to do? Wait for somebody to give you permission to heal ultimately? Well, it's time for you to heal now. You allowed, I gave you permission. No, that's within you. So I think it depends on what area. But you can slow it down. You can slow down your healing by not doing the personal development work. You might not reach your healing because you don't want to do that. That's too much. It's too chaotic. But what you're doing is not chaos by not healing. So I think it's relative, and it depends on who it is, to be honest.
I agree. I recently had a conversation, so what you said kind of triggered me to say that. There are certain areas, me personally, where I can say I feel stuff, right?
Right.
But me, for me, the word healing is I'm in a constant state of personal development, in a constant state of saying, okay, I'm working on this particular area here. I'm working on this particular area here. For me, there's something that I say to myself, and even to the women that I coach, even in business, is that you want to leave this earth better than you were when you got here. So we need to constantly be thinking about this. So okay, say maybe I healed from this thing over here, but I still got this stuff over here. It makes you still stem from trauma one. You know what I mean? So I'm in the process of healing, in those areas. So I just wanted to touch on that, because I just did a live where this was one of the topics that we were discussing. But this particular question is for Coach Nyla and for Coach Fatimah. What was the pivotal point for the both of you when you decided to work together? And I think this is important because I'm gonna just be real. I ain't never seen Felicity work.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. Okay? And I remember when I met you
Atlanta.
In Atlanta.
And I'm so amazed by you, and I feel like that's why you're on here, right? And pray for all the success, in the world and in the afterlife. But please, for those who make their
Mine is very simple. Mine was waiting for her. No.
Yep, that's pretty much it. That's
The thing is that because people know the story, they know that when it came in, I had a particular idea of what it would look like, and what my co-wife would look like. I knew who she was, so I just had a totally different idea. But the thing is, I still also tell people that don't get to the point where you are trying to force something. If it's going to work, it's going to work. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. It did get to a point where I was like, you know what, forget it. Whatever. But how did that change? It changes when you say, you know what, I know what I saw. I know what it can be. I know what it can look like. So I'm not going to give up on that, because I know who I saw in this person. I know that it could be some other things that need to be worked through or whatever the case may be. But I know that this person is the type of person that she is, that is not going to be something that she's going to allow certain things or unknown things to stop her from getting something that is beneficial, whatever the case may be. And I won't either. So when that was the case with me, when I was like, okay, well, forget it, in my own head, because I was dealing with my stuff on my own for the most part. And I was just like, you know what? Eventually, and it was a time when even Coach Nyla was like, you already know what you wanted, what it was. So it was a reminder as well, So sometimes you have to get a reminder of what you saw, what you thought, and what you want. And the thing is still giving, because it's two people involved, there's another person involved. You can't force your growth or your timing on someone else. If they're not ready, they're not ready. So my thing was that I'm going to keep working on me, and when she's ready, I'll be here. Because in my mind, it was always, we're one big family. We're Team Al Mujahid. We're this, and that, and the other. So that's always been there. So it was like, you know what? Keep working on me. When this happens, Allahu Akbar, that's what's going to happen. And then we're going to move forward from that.
What she's trying to tell you is I was real hard-headed. Okay? We just going to say that because she's so great at just making me sound better than I am. No, I'm talking, girl, I'm so hard to get. It was kind of like that middle school or high school, that guy you liked that didn't really like you back, and you just like, nah. And then you find out, yeah, he likes me. It was one of those. So what she did, I'm going to tell you what happened. The moment was she texted me, and I remember her saying, before my nerves get the best of me, da-da-da-da-da, right? This private text, so I'm not going to just roll it all out there, because the relationship that we have outside of social media, we have a private sisterhood type relationship. So I'm not going to just roll that text out. But I said, now I can work with this person. See, because I was talking to her and she talked to me, and it wasn't going between Coach Nazir. Now, it wasn't like he was like, she said this. Okay, she said this about you. Now, then she said, it wasn't that, but I was asking him questions that she needed to answer. And he gave me answers, but he can't give them like he can someone that they weren't designed for him, right? So he's going to answer him as a husband, as an introvert, as an INTJ. He's going to do all that. He's just going, boom, it wasn't that. Boom, she knew I wasn't going to divorce you. Boom. And I'm like, wait, now I need a little more than this. So when she texted me that day and we had lunch, I said, okay, now I get to meet her outside of the label of wife. We get to meet each other as two women that happen to be married to the same husband. We didn't make our conversation about him. So that's how that was the moment when she texted me. I'm sure she wanted to talk to me years before that. But as I stated earlier, I'm going to talk when I want to because I was being hard-headed. I'm a Jersey girl at heart, but I'm not from Jersey, never been there. But I'm just saying. So shout out to Coach Nyla for having courage, because I'm not easy to approach. I knew that. So,
I'm just cracking up over here, okay? for Coach Nyla and Fatimah. Do you think that in every polygamous relationship that there needs to be that direct conversation with wife 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, or 4? Do you think that that's a conversation that needs to be had one-on-one, and then collectively, like if there's 4, do you think that that's a conversation that needs to be had?
Here's the thing. I believe that I believe that the husband is the imam, and sometimes people overstep. I believe that wives do that, and that's where a lot of issues come from too, because it's like, well, he can say one thing, and you're not listening to what he's saying. He can tell you that this is, because he can possibly see the bigger picture of it all, and then we're just seeing this one-track mind type of thing. So what I believe, somewhat as far as best practice, yeah, I do believe that everybody should communicate. I believe that everybody in the family should connect, because you're a family. You're connected that way. What I don't believe is that the husband gets overstepped in order for that to happen.
Right.
Because I do believe that it takes it changes the dynamic, and it does take. We as women, when we get married, and I hope I'm speaking for many women out there, that we are not looking for a punk. We're not looking for somebody that we're gonna walk over. We're looking for a person that's a leader, the provider, the maintainer. We're looking for someone with those qualities. If we as wives are overstepping that, then we take that away from them. So when it comes to that, if you have one of my things, like if you have certain issues, you can come to him with the issues. I like that leaders, true leaders, kings, they'll sit there and say, okay, I hear this, and they'll see if it's petty or not, or whatever the case may be. It's like, you know what? Then we're gonna have a meeting. Then we're gonna do this.
Right.
We're gonna have that, type of thing. Instead of going like, okay, well, I'm just gonna. We've seen that before, where a husband would say, hey, I need this to happen this way. I need you to not do this. And she'll be like, well, you know what? I know he told me not to, but I did it anyway. And then now I'm feeling some type of way because she told me something that I wish I didn't hear, and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. And you're like, yeah, because you didn't listen. You know what I'm saying? You overstepped the bounds. You bit the hand, Marty. You bit the hand. So it's just certain things that, I do believe the conversations should be had. But I also believe that it's a proper way to go about the conversations. Because with Coach Fatimah and I, the conversations didn't go between him like that, but he was aware of the conversations. Like he was aware of her feelings. He was aware of my feelings. And even to the point where we're like, okay, we'll reach out then. Because he knew what I wanted to do. And I'm like, oh, but I don't know.
Sounds easy enough.
Type of thing. So, but if I would have just did that, and he knows her better than I know because he's been around her more. He knows me better than, because he's been around me more than, what I'm saying? So it's that type of thing where it's like, okay, it probably won't be best to do it that way. Probably be better to do it that way. So it's these type of things that we need to make sure that the family is involved, because the bigger picture is what we're striving for. So those who have the bigger picture in mind and success for the whole, for the entirety of it all in mind, that's who we should be able to go to and get the guidance from. And we should go to the imam of the family, the leader of the family first, and then start moving forward to building bonds and things as far as that.
And I also think, in addition to that, I think that the wives can communicate with each other if they have a healthy intention to communicate in a mature way that doesn't hurt the other, right? Because we know if we're going to say something that's hurtful, we're trying to hurt someone. That's what's so beautiful about being Muslim, being judged by Allah on our intentions. But we know if we're intending to be petty or be hurtful or overshare to the point where we're hurting our co-wife. So if they're mature enough to have the conversation and create boundaries within that conversation, then by all means. However, it's what Coach Nyla was saying. We're not going, if the husband says, look, I don't think you should do that today. He doesn't have to put a tail on the end and say, because she said who won't. Just listen. Just listen to him. Because he's in between the women in the capacity of husband, not of wife. Not of wife. So the emotions of that conversation, he's not dealing in the emotion of that because he's not a wife, right? So we needed to respect the fact, like she was saying, that he's the one there in the forefront that has both stories. So yes, if they're mature enough, by all means. But if the husband is saying, wait a minute, hold on, we got to listen too.
I'm gonna chime in here too, because there are other aspects that are usually behind the scenes. For example, some of my mentors let me know you had a leader that leads from the front, that tells everybody what to do, and that's commandeering, if you will. You had the one in the middle, you had one behind, and so on. But the best leaders are the ones whose teams say, you know what, look at what we did. Not knowing the influence, not knowing the motivation, not knowing the different things that were going on. So as a navigator of that ship, it's my responsibility to paint the vision, to get the buy-in, give them enough time to see that I'm demonstrating and doing what I'm supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? So they have to believe in me. All right. They have to believe in that vision. That has to be painted. One. The second thing is that if we Muslims, the first thing we should do with that question is say, okay, what did the Prophet ﷺ do with his wives? Well, he had a family meeting every night in one of his wives' house, the house he was going to be at. You know what I'm saying? And looking at the practical matters of today, it's extremely important that the man got to have your stuff together. You never know. I mean, you have children, you have assets, you have businesses, you have all these things going. So if you're not able to handle things in a proper fashion as a leader, then you may not be qualified to be practicing in the first place. You need to work more on your leadership and your personal development. So that's where it comes in, because they didn't just haphazardly, hey, I want to meet her one day and I want to meet. It didn't happen like that. You didn't know the things that's going on behind the scenes where I'm like, this is how I want to see it. Okay, I'm seeing this event, but I'm not really feeling that. And as my wives, they know I want to please them, but at the same time, they also want to please me. So they'll hear me when I'm speaking about, this is how I think this should look. This is how blah, blah, blah. My leadership, I didn't want to be too rough on something or too forward with something. It's like, all right, if I'm not going to be, then it's just going to be wishy-washy. I need to step this up. This is what I want. This is how I want it to look. I've already demonstrated this. So that means I have enough bank, I have enough deposits in that account for the trust to be there. Then this is how we're going to operate and move, because the vision I have for this is bigger. So what we're doing right now with our outstanding personal relationships, I already had the vision for that over 4 years ago. You know, our whole intros that we recently started doing, it's written in one of my journals. You know what I'm saying? Because we talk about personal development, we spend literally tens of thousands of dollars on us individually. So we're talking about learning from, whether it's the Brenda Burchards and flying the thousands of miles away and spending 1,000 miles just on hotels and entrance fees, to invest in us, because schooling is not the same as education. And when we're meeting with our family, we have a family council is what we call it. Every single week we meet, right? It's about 90 minutes. But one of the things we ask, what are you doing in personal development? What are you getting out of that? You know, so we're going through books a week. We're going through these different lessons, but it takes somebody to navigate that. And that's my responsibility as a navigator, to know and to really steer that ship. So it's the things that go on behind the scenes, because like you said, if the man sets the tone, then he also grows it, and he's supposed to steer that ship. So when they say you have more than twice the man to practice polygyny, you really do. You know, it's not for punks, and we don't usually get that coming to us. You know, if somebody's trying to be a predator, or they trying to just marry to go through, they're not coming to outstanding personal relationships. You know, we repel those type of individuals, and that's what we want to do. And at the same time, not only men sets the tone, but the women have to raise their level of maturity, because everybody has to do their work. That's the thing. We're all accountable, responsible for that. But anyway, that's that piece. We're going to get to the entrepreneurship and stuff like this.
Also, I love it. In Coach Fatimah, you alluded to this, like, a woman is not going to follow a man. I'm one of those. I'm not going to follow a man that doesn't have leadership qualities.
Right.
Like, there's an inkling of weakness or inkling. Me, I noticed it right away, and I'm like, oh, you gotta go.
Yep, leave the chat. Yep, that's it.
Not going to follow it. So I feel, and that's why I was saying earlier, like, when I look to polygynous relationships, it's like, what's the brother doing? I want to know what the brother got going on. And so, you, perfect segue, Coach Nazir, what is the strongest character trait that the man who is in polygyny needs to have?
That's it's actually an easy question. That's an easy question, right? Because even though that's what character's trait is, the strongest thing you must have is character, which means you have to have good morals. And of course, as a Muslim, if you have good morals, you aren't going to oppress yourself or anyone else. And you also make the right decision. So if you're not qualified for something, you're not going to go after it. See, charisma can get you to the top, but character is what keeps you there. So it's that strong character that helps guide your decisions upon every area of your life. If you don't have that, and that's something internal, that's something that can be demonstrated, that's something other people see. I can't get on there, well, I do this and I do that. Now it's bragging and boasting and stuff like that. And it's not for me to do. But having strong character, that's where it goes to. I teach men about going from boy to being managed to being a man, and so to being a man of value, then to a king, if you will, right? But a man of value, the whole underlying foundation is he has values, and he can demonstrate his value to those around him. But those values come from the character that you have, and you continuously build upon that by your learning, by your growth, by your gaining the wisdom from the lessons, from the successes, but even much more from the failures. And we had the best example of properly set of Sanan.
Do you feel like this king quality, we're gonna call it what it is, right? So this king quality, do you feel like even speaking like that you catch flack from people?
Yeah, of course. But see, the thing, I didn't like the term to begin with because it usually comes with this bravado and all this machoism. But you know what? When you think about it and you reflect on it, it's like, okay, the king answers to Allah's idols, the king of all kings, right? So when it comes to authority, when it comes to these types of things, as a king, you're doing much more. It's not about me. You know what I'm saying? It's not about what I'm doing is not for me. I'm good and I'm content. It can be content. What I'm doing is trying to be for generations that I'll never meet. We are the first generation. We have the opportunity for my great-grandchildren to see me without a full gray beard if I live long enough to get one. For my great-great-great-grandchildren to look at us and say, oh, this is where you get that attitude, or this is where you get the humor from, or this is the first generation that can do that. So the information I'm leaving and sharing with others is not only for us in the getting du'as on many different continents, it's for generations down the line to be set up. It's to be able to set up businesses so we no longer have to worry about money, and we can worry about doing what really serves people. So you don't have to go get a job and have to focus on all this other stuff. We want to build enterprises that service each other that last for generations. So I'm doing it, one, because three things follow us after we're gone. That's this righteous children, money that you spend that continues to benefit people, and knowledge that benefits the people. And we think outstanding personal relationships falls under each one of those. And if we can do that until, then that means we can do that longer than we even breathe life. You know, so that right there is what it means to us. You know, and it's far more than me or you just your lower desires and blah. Look, you see 3 of us right here. You don't see the 15 of us as a total. You know what I'm saying? And what we're building them to do, what I'm building my sons to be, as in being kings. This ain't regular talk. They're not talking about this. You know, Bill Gates and all these people that have this money and stuff. You know, whether regardless of what we say about their character, they're not teaching the same thing. They're not teaching their kids to go to school, get your grades, get a good job, and go work for somebody else. They're not teaching them that. You know, but we are privy if we open the books. We are privy if we actually have a library card and stop using the excuse that I can't afford it, I can't get the books and go to Barnes and Noble. I mean, how much library cards cost nowadays? They're pretty expensive. Yeah, they free. You know what I'm saying? So that matters. And if I can put in work now that serves me after I'm gone, and we know what happens after death, we know what happens in the grave, we know what happens after Mizan on Yom Qiyamah. If what we can do now that benefits us, you can't lose at all whatsoever. So, and you need money to fuel that message. So entrepreneurship and investing is that area that we can do and be passive and say, you know what, let's travel around the world for a year, see what's up or longer and do that. But it can only come by increasing your financial acumen and having those characters. So I teach my children, you got morals, you got your deen, and you got money. Those are going to affect all the other areas of your life. So learn those. Get your deen right first so you ain't worried about the money, because money is neutral. If you're a good person, it's going to make you better. You're going to go ahead and be able to do good things with it. If you're a bad person, it's going to expose your evil. You're going to do evil with it. But it's neutral as ever. You know what I'm saying? And we ain't Christians, so we don't take and adulterate the verse that says the root of all evil, money is the root of all evil. even though it says root of all kinds of evil. You know what I'm saying? We knew that when we were Christians. But we don't go for that. We look at the Sahaba who were concerned that if the Prophet ﷺ taught them dhikr and they came into the mess, they said, not the rich ones, not the rich brothers, now they doing it. Now they making dhikr. What can we do? They saw wealth as a means to benefit others. To this day where you have, we can go on and on and on about it, but those means are not going to come for us from working a traditional job. We honored to be unemployable by choice because we want to be the examples for our children and teach our children the things that our parents never taught us. So that's that.
Coach.
Right, and so money is a tool to get you to where it is that you're looking to go. Money will change the trajectory of Islam as a society as a whole, right? Will change the Muslim society. We have to start thinking of money that way. And entrepreneurship, we are actually encouraged. Islam encourages us as Muslims to be entrepreneurs. So I am just loving like this talk track and you as the leader of your family. And also your wives in their leadership roles as women and as wives, also leading, all three of you just leading your, family. So much to take away, from this episode so far. And I still got a couple more questions. We're still all right with time. Let me know.
We good.
We're good.
So, what are three ways to thrive in relationships? Including, polygyny. So, what are three ways to thrive? But before you answer that, I want to ask, do you think that polygyny gives you a one-up over maybe a monogamous relationship?
Trying to get us in trouble.
Who you asking? So you want to answer that first? You want us to answer that first? Okay. Does it give us a one-up? Yes. Yes. Because it requires more of you as a man. It requires that you deal with dynamics emotionally that you never have to deal with. All right. It requires you to be more. Okay. First. Second, I would take our tribe of 15 right now, at our age right now. I can take it against a monogamous family. We got you. You know what I'm saying? But no, it does. It really does give you a one-up because it helps you think on bigger lines. When I look at it as a Muslim, we should be encouraging men to practice polygyny. They already want to practice polygyny. I mean, it's in our nature, if you will, right? But you should try to strive to be qualified to do so, even if you don't intend to, even if you think it's a headache or whatever, that's fine. But for what it will make of you, it will require some things of you. It requires increase. It requires a lot of multiple intelligences to go. And that type of man, of course, there's not enough people on the planet for everybody to practice polygyny. So when they say, oh, it's not for everybody, forget that. Of course, not for everybody. We can do simple math. However, for those who do, let me give you an example. The video that was released, the music video by Drake. All right. It's just released called Falling Back, right? He married, 25 women or something in the video, right? And actually, as a Jewish, he can do that. There's no restriction on the number of women. But does he have the capability to provide for them financially? Would women sign up for that? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we know they would. All right. It's Drake, light-skinned brother. Go ahead, brother. But I'm just saying, a light-skinned man, I mess with him. He grew his beard out, so he looks better now. But nevertheless, he got the funds and stuff like that. Maybe he can be measurable with his time. Now, in his religion, the way he do it, if he follow his scripture, he can marry all of them. So even though it was meant as a joke, it talks about the religious nature of man. But what you have to do and become in order to go ahead and practice it in a healthy manner where it's fulfilling and so on, it requires more of you. So do you have a one-up? Well, so far as emotional intent, you're not pushed. You're not pushed. You're not required to do that. The other thing is that a lot of times I'll let you know to marry 2, 3, or 4, right? But one, if you feel you can be unjust. So either we are okay with our men being weak and unfair and unfit as women, thinking that he's not qualified, he can't do this. I married a punk, a bum. Is what we come into. But I could look at buildings and structures where we travel to build cannons that brought down castles. I've seen, buildings and architecture, beautiful architecture. I've seen concubine quarters and where sultans live and the expansion of Islam, right? And I look at it today and how it's weak and withered down, where men don't have that same drive and that same desire moving forward. And we know as men, one of the things we desire is women. A lot of our lessons know this. We created women, you want women and children and wealth and home, with all these types of things, right? But now if it's just restricted, limited to monogamy over the last 100 years, of which has become normalized, then what has that made us as men? We feel we make it, we get to the pinnacle, then we just disrespect women because men are still having relationships with other women. They jump downs, they side pieces, they sugar daddies, all kind of other stuff that goes on society. Just because you're in a monogamous relationship don't mean you ain't a Jesse Jackson with extra babies or a Bill Clinton with all the ladies. See, monogamy tends to protect men. It says you got this one legal wife, everybody else you don't really have to go ahead and take care of legally. But polygyny requires that you man up to take care of your responsibilities.
Since I'm chiming in a little bit because Coach Nyla is talking about the men. And I would still also state that it does give women a leg up as well. Those who are really looking at it and being very objective to it, it does. It allows us to be better. It allows us to become more because you have to learn how to be emotionally intelligent and emotionally mature. Not only that, you don't have to worry about single parent households and different things like that, and jump downs and side chicks and all these different things like that. So not only does it gives the men a leg up because they have to be more, it also gives women that too because they have benefits in it, as well as in order to even reap the benefits of it, you still have to work on yourself, where we go back to that personal development. So once you're constantly developing your person, that is a benefit in itself. And you don't have to work that hard in monogamy. Not to knock people that's in monogamy, it is what it is. But you don't have to work that hard because you can manipulate all day long. But when you're in polygyny, not so much so, because it's going to be in the back of your mind, side of your mind, front of your mind, whatever the case may be. It's another person that's there. It's another person that probably can do this, probably can do that, probably can do this. Whether you want to believe that, whether we want to believe it or not, that affects us in some way, shape, or form, it is a motivator. It's a motivator in saying, you know what? I like even if it's a part where it's like, I like that she know how to do that. I like that. I want to learn that too. It don't have to be even a whole competition thing. Not saying that it don't be, because we've seen that too. But it can also be, this is encouraging me. I didn't even know about this. Now I'm going to learn this too. Oh, she knows this? That sounds pretty good. I'm going to learn that too. So yeah, in all, I think it gives society as a whole a leg up if that is what they practice, and if they decide that, not only am I going to practice this, but I'm going to do it right, because doing it right means that I'm going to make sure that I'm not being manipulative, I'm not being hurtful, harmful, I'm having character, right, and the morals and things like that Coach Nazir talked about earlier.
In addition to that, just very quickly, for me personally, polygyny meant that when he wasn't at our home, I had more time to work on me in a more in-depth way. So I knew at the age that I am now, I said but who knew when you're 20 that you need this kind of space to work on you? Because you don't know nothing about personal development anyway, right? So when I became older, I'm like, ooh, love you to death. But woo, I'm glad I ain't got to make breakfast and I can read this book right now, right? And he's not the guy to get in there, woman, and make my food. It's not that, right? But it is indeed an expectation there when he's home, okay? But I knew I needed more time with my grown-up daughters. They're all adults. And I knew I needed to have more time to me without the distraction, okay? Or be it a good distraction, but I needed more time to foster a better relationship with my Lord, with Allah, and work on my personal development. And that happens when the kids are, they get a little bigger, and then the husband is gone, and I'm like, oh, snap, what am I going to do with me today, for me today? So that's what, for me, that's what it was. I could just go a little deeper.
Listen, I don't know. Like, I might have to call you, Coach
Yes.
that protection,
Right.
Yes.
companionship. When you go somewhere for a couple of days or whatever the schedule looks, whatever it looks like.
Yeah, do it, bro.
Go
Yep.
somewhere, you get to be over here.
Yes, that's the best part. Yeah, our daughters want it because our youngest daughter.
We have five daughters, and 2 of them are married in monogamy. 3 of them are unmarried. We looking for good quality people that are willing to practice polygyny because they actually want their husband to practice polygyny after marrying them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But finding the qualified people is a struggle. I know sisters got it bad. I'm a wali. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get my daughters married to righteous young men of value. You know what I'm saying? So it's a struggle.
Yes,
But
indeed.
yeah, they never been in a relationship, none of that stuff. But they look forward to a polygyny, their husband practice polygyny and stuff like that. Eventually, when that time comes, inshallah.
Inshallah, and we are progress. I mean, because like just even in the first conversation that I ever had with you, you can see the benefit of polygyny, and I think we all can see it. Like, I think we all can see it, and we all know the benefits, especially from reading from an Islamic perspective, looking at the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? We can see it, and I think for us in present day, we need to see it practiced well. And I think, for the girls, and I don't want to speak for them, but in my opinion, right, they are able to make that decision for themselves because they see their parents practice well. And so this goes all the way back. I wanted to say this in the beginning, is when you make the decision to share this gift, to share this practice with the rest of us, you needed to do that because we need to see more positive role models. Yes, have the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his wives already along Allah. But we need present day. We need 1,400 years later. With all going on in the world.
Right.
Yes.
We need something a little more, a little closer.
Right.
That part. Yeah. So the second part of that question is 3 tips on how they can thrive in relationships, put it in general or specifically in polygyny. 3 tips.
I think we always talk about have the willingness to have the hard conversation. You have it and also listen to the perspective that's not just your own is a huge thing. The communication part. Ooh, if we could just sit down and make a safe space for couples that are married to speak about polygyny without anybody running off, getting triggered, raising up, getting in their feelings about it, then I think men and women alike would feel safe in discussing it, and it wouldn't be so doggone hard to do, because then we could get to some resolve. We can't resolve anything if we just, you bring it up and somebody's head explodes. It's like conversation over, right? So communication, I would say communication is big.
I would go into, in addition to that, minding your marriage. And that's whether you're monogamy or polygyny. When it comes down to it, people want to compare, and comparison is a thief of joy.
Yes.
So, people want to compare so much, or if it wasn't this way, or maybe, or what ifs, and all these different things like that. Or they see people on Instagram, these couples, and you see these snippets of life, and thinking that that's the whole thing, and then they become ungrateful. So the thing is that mind your marriage, and minding your marriage to make sure that it's the best marriage that you can have. Not because you're competing with this person and that person, because you want it to succeed. So that's kind of what I would do.
I would suggest investing in yourself. Investing in yourself, because there's always a return on investment.
Mm-hmm.
So my mentors asked me and said, you chose to be right here where you are right now financially 5 years ago. That blew my mind. I'm like, what? I'm broke. He's like, yeah, we know. You said we know. 5 years ago, you made a decision of what to do, where to work, how to spend, all this stuff. And you said, you know what? What are the last 5 books you read? I hadn't. It was a long time before that, right? So I would ask person to evaluate yourself, give yourself a report card, and invest in yourself because there's a return on that investment. So if you can't name the last 5 books that you had that are involved in increasing you, meaning like whether it's leadership, communication, active listening, all right, teamwork, financial IQ. If you can't name the last 5 books that you did, then you're on the path of making small errors in judgment on a daily basis, which leads to failure. But by investing in you, I don't care if you're talking about buying a book, an audio program, or going to, if you want to practice polygyny, go to polygamymasterclass.com, invest in our course, learn from us directly, or counseling or coaching from our wives, but invest in you. Going to the, getting Tony Robbins information, going to listen to one of the recent books that we finished and our children are in and finishing up is Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter by Curtis 50 Cent Jackson. Read by him, and you can get it for free on YouTube. It's up there. It's like 8 hours or something. You can listen to it quicker. But by investing in you, you get these same life principles, and you get these clues that are left by those who are successful in different areas of life. So if you don't invest in you, you ain't gonna have a return. You're not gonna materialize that. You're not going to increase. It's gonna decrease because nothing stays the same. Just like we're talking to you right now, traveling through space on this rock that's spinning, with cells living in us and dying in us, we're getting closer to that day where it's going to be a wrap. That's all reality. But if we're investing in us, then you can't lose because there's a return on that investment, just like Allah Ta'ala is going to return and if you pay us for the different salat and all these different things that he's given us the ability to do, and through his rahmah is going to bless us for doing those things. So, you know, so important. Investing in yourself. If you're not investing in yourself, then you're already losing. You know what I'm saying? But the good part is you can change that direction overnight. You might not be able to reach your destination overnight. At least you can change your direction and get there, which reminds me that I think the Prophet ﷺ said, a person will practice the deeds of the hellfire his entire life until he gets a bow's length away from paradise. Starts doing those deeds, dies doing those and get Jannah, get paradise, right? And then there will be a person who will do the deeds of paradise their entire life. Stop doing those deeds. Do the deeds until he gets a bow's length away from paradise, starts doing the deeds of the people of hellfire, die doing those deeds and get hellfire. So it ain't how you start, it's how you finish that matters. But making that choice and investing in yourself is what can change everything. That was a long answer.
Listen, I know about the tears, about the cries of tears. I want to ask this question for all of you. How, like, do you feel that there is a greater intensity in 2022 to invest in your spiritual, your personal, your business development? Do you feel like there is a greater intensity? And why? And I'm going to just say my opinion first. And the answer for me is yes. I feel like you don't really have an idea. And a lot of people, you know, were like, well, if your home camera is here, why do I need to do all of these things? Why am I still, you know, working on these things? It goes back to what you just said. Like, it's time to finish. You know what I mean? Like, why stop? You know, there's a hadith, and it's a hadith that I quote often, and it talks about if your home camera is about to be announced, you know, your home camera is about to be announced, the trumpet is about to be blown, and you have a seed in your hand, plant the seed. That goes back to intention. That goes back to, as Coach Nazir said, like, yo, it's like finish. You had that seed in your hand, and that seed was something of good intention. We don't know that could have been the act, just the planting of that seed.
Right.
Man.
You know, the question, is it more intensity?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's important, you know, like, do you think that in this day and time, you know, right now, 2022, we've been through the pandemic, we've been through all this stuff, is it still important to go hard?
Oh yeah. You have to go hard before you can't anymore. You know, you don't get it's that thing where like you don't get a day off. You know what I'm saying? If you have children, if you have grandchildren, if you have you have to keep going. Because like I was saying earlier, who owns time? Allah Ta'ala owns it. So do you get a break? Do you really get a break? You might get a moments where there's breaks, but you got to keep going. You have to. Because I started thinking the older I got, I said, how much more time do I have to collect these good deeds? I'm glad these people making dog for us in these comments because I need all the help I can get outside of myself, right? So I'm like, alhamdulillah, I want to send them back just the same. May their families have success and whatever they make dua for us for, be it that in their lives as well. But I'm like, I need some help. And then OPR and then these du'as, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's so powerful because we don't have time to be lazy. We have no time to be lazy. You know, it might be one meme I got to make and I'm ready to jump off something very high. And I'm like, you know what? I got to get this meme out. I can go lay down and get into bed after, you know, or schedule or whatever, or have this meeting. But because I will regret it if the next day I can't get up and do that. And I could have did it right then. And I just wasted that time. You know, we don't have time to squander. We don't.
I read a quote on that that said, procrastination is the arrogant assumption that God owes you another day to do what he gave you the opportunity to do now.
I'm just saying.
Sure. But yeah, I mean, of course, I agree with it. So yeah, it's just being not only that, but being very much more intentional with it. You know how they say, well, working harder versus working smarter versus working harder. So yeah, you want to go hard. You want to go hard in a smart way. You know, you want to make sure that you're going to reap the benefits. You're going to, and not just just stacking up the good deeds because Coach Nyla was like, I need all the good deeds I can get. But when it comes down to it, it's like if the intention is there, even if it's something as little as talking to your child about something or guiding them through something or whatever the case is, because every time I feel a little annoyed and I'm like, what? Whatever. But then I have to think, like, okay, and I'm gonna have to answer for this. Like every time I do something, for the most part, I'm thinking, I'm gonna have to answer for this. I'm gonna have to answer for this. I'm gonna have to answer for this. So that type of thing is like being intentional with it. So it's not just doing the work and doing the stuff. It's like, okay, how am I going to do it to, make this be massively beneficial? So yeah, so not only just going hard, but going very, going hard intentionally with it.
All amazing takeaways, and for all of you that are watching this live, I pray you guys have had your notebook out this entire time. And for those of you that listen to it later, you guys know I always tell you, listen to this podcast, make sure you have your pen and notepad available because gems will be dropped and there's always something that you can take away and go and implement, right? So I think that these three tips, all three of these tips, whether you're in polygyny or whether you're in monogamy, as all the coaches have stated, you can put into practice. So this is where Coach Nyla and Coach Fatimah. So what does it mean to be a boss Hijabipreneur? And I have a question for Coach Nyla.
Snap. For me, what it means is, like I was saying before, is being that mentor and taking part of the vision for the family. So if you're married and you have a husband, he has a vision, we got to get in the game and take part in it, help support it, see where we can bring some education or where we're needed in that vision. Because I noticed that many times as Muslim women, we'll sit and we'll watch our husbands kind of create the vision and then he'll fulfill it and they'll do all the groundwork and he's in the trenches and we're going, look at him go, instead of saying, okay, what's the vision? What do you need supported? Where can I give my ideas? Because sometimes men want us to say, okay, here's my idea. What do you think? Like as the leadership in the family, as the imam of the family, here's some ways to help with that vision. So to show our children and the generations to come, like our daughters were saying, and this is an older daughter, so she, so for her to say it, I'm like, she's been watching, right? And she said, I'm so proud of the work that you're doing, Umi, by making videos of it, because she remembers when I didn't want to do it because I might get met with opposition, and if I get met with opposition, I'm gonna check you. So I just didn't want to get in the confrontation, right? But when she said that, I said she's watching to see if I'm getting in on the vision, see if I'm putting in some type of work, not being busy but being productive as a Muslim woman. I think we need so much more representation for Muslim women in the arena of entrepreneurship, because the tide is turned. It's not turning, it has turned. So women can understand that we need to be this celebrity for our daughters and our sons even, and maybe our daughters' in-laws or our son-in-laws, right? So they can see, don't be afraid to get out there because we're Muslim women. We're needed. We're needed in this world, right? So the representation of being an entrepreneur is to me a responsibility if we can do it. I mean, if you're at home with your babies and you gotta send stuff through the mail, we get that. We had babies. We were running businesses with our babies. Sometimes you be nursing and be stamping an envelope, right? But it's about supporting that vision, inshallah. So to me, it's just, let's embrace it.
I totally agree. That's pretty much the same for me, being an active part of the legacy. Not only being an active part of the legacy, but also being an example. You know, being a great positive example for people to see and be influenced by, and you know, racking up all the good deeds you possibly can by doing so.
Right.
So I always love to get the different perspectives from Coach Nazir on this. And how important is it for you as the imam, as the leader of your family, to advocate for your wives and other women as entrepreneurs? What is the benefits of that?
Well, for me, it's mandatory. As a father, also of 5 daughters, you're responsible for them. All right, there's a couple things because it gets tricky in this area. One is that in the world that we live in, all right, we live in an opportunity, unprecedented opportunity. Again, we're streaming live right now from the house, no extra cost. I mean, yeah, we have equipment and all that stuff and everything, but it's internet. You know what I'm saying? It's unprecedented opportunity. All right, so therefore, one, it allows you to focus and keep your character intact and not have to compromise your integrity as a woman. All right, and you also set your own path. So I've been entrepreneurial minded because I was around great uncles, for example, that had money. They were illiterate, came from Mississippi, selling watermelons. They were illiterate in their 30s, or at least the one I was learning from. But he pulled me to the side one day after he saw me looking at these dope dealers back in the 90s, and he was like, he said, you know, I got enough money, I could buy 5 Rolls Royces cash. You know, and he started breaking down game to me, just teaching me some basic things that really stuck with me that other people didn't have, with all the degrees and all that kind of stuff. So for me, I'm like, all right, this is an opportunity. Entrepreneurship and investing is an opportunity to take and manifest something bigger than you that causes you to serve other people. And as a daughter, as a father of girls, you know what I'm saying? You want to make sure that nobody is financially oppressing them or, you know, holding them where they feel that the needy obligate. All right. Not that it's there as a, you know, to use as a weapon against the man, because I still believe one of the biggest challenges is that if they're not working on personal development, whoops, not an entrepreneur. There goes their femininity.
Right.
Now I need to be out here and be a man, be boxing all over, when you don't have to do that whatsoever. You don't have to compromise your integrity, your character, or your femininity, which is really unattractive, to run a business. You know what I'm saying? So with that, and we have so many examples of that throughout our illustrious Islamic history, or going even back to our Black history, Madam C.J. Walker and holding stuff down, that there's so many other examples in this unprecedented time. That's why it's important to me they learned. That's why they were preteens reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's why we play Cash Flow 101. They understand the cash flow quadrant and where to get dough, why they have the YouTube channels and how they're growing them and they learning this marketing. Now they see the digital stuff and we're being examples from there, right? So it's extremely important for my daughters to be on that, and then of course my sons to be on a higher level when it comes to being kings. They have to do that. You know what I mean? I know that when it's time for my sons' marriages and stuff to pop off, it's going to be an application procedure. I'm pretty sure. You know what I'm saying? Because of who they are and what they become and what they develop prayerfully. So, you know, Allah knows best. But that right there is extremely important for them because, again, looking at it from a father and being able to do what they want to do out of a passion and a desire to do it, not because they have to do it and waste time of their life going around chasing dollars when they can put things together and have it chase them, because now the whole entire world is your playground. You know, it's a totally different thing. So that's why it's important from my perspective.
Praying for just, this next generation, this generation that we are raising, praying for their Islam and, like you said, their development and, just everything. They're going to be something else. They are going to be something amazing. They're literally taking, the excellence of where we stopped. They're starting.
Ooh.
They feel like this could be wrong.
Yes.
One thing I want to touch on, and this is both, of course, we big up the women on this channel, but I love that, you talked about your sons too, because they in turn, of course, they big up themselves, and they're also creating another, version of what you established, Coach Nyla, and your sons are doing that. But I believe that our society, as a Muslim society, and as a whole, will become better as a result of this mindset that you have. And the reason why I say that is we look back to the wife, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his first wife, Khadija radiallahu anha. Even them coming together. Of course, this is a man of excellence, he's the prophet, right? But then we have her, who's at the upper echelon of the society. She married up. So she's already up. She married up. And I believe what you are teaching your daughters, they can only up and come to them.
Inshallah, it ain't easy.
That's why I teach entrepreneurship. I teach entrepreneurship to women and girls for that right there, and financial literacy. Because it's not about, I'm a single lady, or it's not about
Right.
It's not about the Beyonce mentality. It really isn't. It's about what Coach Nazir just said. It is about her understanding that she requires more. When she's financially literate and spiritually literate, she look it up. She understands her Islam for herself. Prince, okay? Prince, okay? And even says her, only the king could even think about even looking at her direction.
Right.
That, to me, changes the trajectory of our entire society, Muslim community, and our entire society. Because it brings us up. Excited. And I'm full. Luckily, I can pull from this conversation. I knew I was going to learn a lot. But I didn't think that it was going to cause the thoughts that are going, the thoughts are all over in my head. And I have homework, after this, I'm going to enjoy listening to this, inshallah, as I edit it. So how can the Boss Hijabipreneur audience connect with you? I heard you mention earlier one of your courses, and the one that I saw was the course relationship mastery inner circle program. What else is there that you have in your repertoire? Please let our audience know how they get that.
Yeah, they can find us pretty much outstandingpersonalrelationships.com. That's the website. We have a number of different courses, like the relationship mastery inner circle, whether you're single, whether you're looking at premarital stuff, for example, whether you're monogamy or looking to practice or already practice polygyny. We have those, of course, specifically focused on polygyny at polygamymasterclass.com. But our handles are Outstanding Personal Relationships, of course, on YouTube and Facebook, and Outstanding Relationships on IG. But the main thing is our website. Matter of fact, next week, all that water I'm drinking at this time, right? But next week, we're releasing our own private community. All right, so it's going to be a supportive community. You'll be able to access us on a daily basis right there in our area where we're posting different videos, having different reviews and stuff like that. You have to worry about copyright strikes and anything else really from social media. But getting on our email list where we send out a newsletter, we send up a weekly wrap up. We do respond to people at our email addresses, but the main thing is outstandingpersonalrelationships.com. Google it, go to the website, connect with us. We'll love to, share with you what's going on. Or we have about 500 or so videos on YouTube. Okay. So, we're grateful to be able to do that and to really build and grow. But what we're trying and striving for this year is really helping 100 or 1,000 families take things to the next level in their personal relationships. So Coach Fatimah, you can reach her with coaching and counseling directly at coachfatimah.com. Coach Nyla, the same, coachnyla.com. So, there's many different ways people spell it and pronounce it, but you go to the website, you're going to find it, and you can definitely feel to reach out to us as well. I do coaching on a very select basis, usually with executives and entrepreneurs. So my coaching is not open to application only. Nevertheless, outstanding personal relationships is where we at.
Love it, love it, love it. You heard it here first. The community will be open next week for school, by the way, because there are only a certain amount of hours in the day. And with the community, you can reach so many more, and so that will help you to achieve your goal of creating this legacy. Mashallah. So may Allah grant you Tawfiq. I'm actually fast. That's good.
We are too.
One of the things that I pray that the listener takes away from today's episode is that make every action and aspect of one's life worship, including our relationships, no matter how unprofessional. And my inspirational quote of the week, I think you will enjoy this, especially Coach Nyla, because she said something that is in this quote a little bit earlier. It is only when the sun of the ego sets and true everlasting light of the soul and the innate beauty within the human being can rise. This refining of the soul to be in pure alignment with God is the essence of the station of insan. In defining insan, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "It is to worship God as though you are seeing Him, or even if you cannot see Him, He sees you." This is an excerpt from one of my favorite books, The Secret of Divine Love by our sister, Halimah. If you haven't gotten that book, I've talked enough about it.
Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah.
For being here, please leave us with any final thoughts.
Well, I have something to say to Sister Halimah. I wanted to thank her because when she first met the two of us, we were not ever met with any negativity, or she didn't treat us in such a way where one of us didn't exist. And she was so in our corner on that day, and I remember that. And she took a photo with us that we still have. We still have it. But the way she embraced us was in such a way that the city that we originate from, we didn't get met with that kind of love. And I want to thank you, Jazakallah khair. That's one of my really, really powerful memories. And then I said, you know what, we're gonna be all right. Because that sister embraced us both. Not one, but both of us. And with that, our whole family. So Jazakallah. Thank you so much, sister, for that love. I appreciate it. We just do.
Y'all don't know. My older age, my maturity, I'm a crybaby, y'all.
Good. All right. Crybabies unite.
Y'all, and may Allah grant you Tawfiq individually, and may Allah grant you Tawfiq collectively in what you are doing, and may Allah open up the pathway. Maybe open up the pathway for people to see the good in what it is that you're doing, and make more people embrace polygamy. I'm like right here.
We all gonna be on here crying in a minute.
join me next time as we talk about overcoming the top 3 challenges Muslim female entrepreneurs face. Peace. Assalamu alaikum.
So like, peace.
Ooh. Yeah.
Still behind the scenes, y'all.
Y'all.
You're right, guys.
Yeah.
That was amazing. I'm full. Wallahi, I'm full.
We are too.
You know, I'm truly glad you guys the week. I can't say it enough. And so if you can just email me all of the links. So I have your official link, but just the links for each of you. This is one for Coach Nyla, Coach Fatimah, and Coach Nazir. So if you could just email me those, I'll include those in the episode. This will probably air in July. If I can finish working at the time. So this will play.
July next week. That's fine, sis. Ain't no rush. Said July is next week. It's fine. Ain't no rush. Sure. Inshallah. Sounds good. Hello, man. All right. Don't interest.
Okay, IG, you just behind the scenes. We did an amazing interview. We had a good time, you guys. We always do. Let's see. What are some books that have helped you become ready to take on the challenge of being a husband to 2 distinctly different women? Coach Nyla. Green eggs and ham by Dr. Seuss.
And I like it so much.
Oh, that'll do it. Ooh.
Turn out
Together with her. That'll do it. Yep, that's gonna put me in bed right there. Okay. He's behind the scenes, guys. I think he can answer that, of course.
All right, we got a question on that.
because it was so
All right, OPR audience. So we done the interview. It'll be edited and live with our dear sister. She's in a couple weeks, so probably mid-July. So hopefully y'all got some good stuff. If you stuck with us, that's super dope because it's been over an hour.
Yeah. We have to give off lights. They'll be asking where I'm at.
All right, so we're gonna take some questions and everything before we wrap it on up. TCH.
That's how I would have spelled it.
All right, so. All right, so that was good. So with that being said, let's get to some of these questions. Some books that you can do as a man. One is Winning with People. All right. Pretty much almost anything John C. Maxwell has when it comes to leadership, whether it's 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, the 17 indisputable laws of teamwork. And if you really want this list, you probably need to go get on our email list and see when we go live and join our community when we release it next week, because we'll have that there. So those are just 2. Then there's Win with People, 25 ways to win with people. Then, of course, leadership books are extremely important. I don't care if you talk about Jim Collins from Good to Great or it's a whole bunch of stuff. But the main thing is making sure you're investing in yourself. So whether you want to increase your financial intelligence, I think that Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter should be on your list. I mean, it's on YouTube, it's on for free. The audiobook, you can listen to it. Or you can get the Audible, or you can listen to The Confident Mind, which I'm listening to right now. So there's so many different things. The main thing is just to get in it and stay at it, be consistent with it. Because that is required for growth. You know what I'm saying? Period. All right. All right. So Raquel Malik asked a question now. So Facebook and YouTube, we're streaming for them right now, and they post some questions. So that's easier because we can read it versus, IG don't want to play the game, so we can't stream for them using this software. Nevertheless, we there, so we appreciate you. But she says, would you say it was easy to join the family because you were already open to the concept of polygyny? So that's the Coach Nyla. Also, did y'all date for a long while before marriage, just like most people do before getting married? That's the second question. Was there a period of dating, or was marriage just a thing up front? Did there already being evidence of a strong relationship capacity shown by Coach Nyla?
Okay, I'm gonna answer the easier questions first, the shorter ones. We didn't date. We don't date. So, and
Why not?
song we don't date.
Okay.
So, yeah, I was gonna say. I'm just a little slow today, y'all. It's half the time, but no, the song we don't date. So there was no dating. But if you guys, I don't know if you were here earlier when we were doing the interview. I knew them. I knew this family through business, and I observed them and different things like that. Spoke with them, and everything. So and that wasn't really, like I said, that wasn't a mindset. It was like, oh yeah, this is family. One of these days, I'm gonna practice polygyny, and this is the family I'm gonna. That was just not it. It's just cover up a lot. So, but let's see, was it easier to join the family? Here's the thing. I don't
Because
know,
you were open to
because
the
I was
concept.
open to the concept. See, this is the thing. I'm trying to figure out a way to kind of explain it, because a lot of people think, it's easier to grasp the concept that when someone enters into a family or they marry a man who's already married, that it's like, okay, I'm entering into this family, and I'm like, even though I knew the family, and I'm like, yes, this is great, and I wife is amazing, learn from her, the husband is a leader, and all his other good qualities that he has and everything like that, and kids are so adorable and everything like that, and something comes off.
Fabulous. Okay. I can still hear us.
Okay, so you're still here. Even though that was the case, that's not necessarily the thing. The thing is being married. So the first and foremost, because it's really interesting sometimes, because if you're married in monogamy, that's what you're looking for. You're focused on your marriage. But for some reason, anybody that comes in after has to not look at it in that way of being married. It's like, okay, well, you're joining the family, you're doing this and everything like that when it comes down to it. So being easier, I don't think so, because it's already a number of challenges that that comes with it, and I didn't realize it until after the fact. But when it comes down to it, it's like, I think that even if you do have that mindset, and that you have the mind that I'm open to whatever, stuff like that, you're not the only one that's dealing with everything. You're not the only one that's you're marrying a person who already has a family established. So even though that could possibly, you would think that it may be easier for you, you find out later on that it's not easier for you, because you have to deal with other dynamics that you wouldn't have had to deal with if you were marrying somebody in monogamy or whatever the case may be. So yeah, it's just a different dynamic. But when it comes down to it, you're saying that, what, these are the boxes that that I'm looking for in a husband. Yeah. And if this is doable, then this is what's going to be, if that's what's meant to be. Yeah. If not, then it won't happen that way. So more often, the thing is, I just want people to understand that it's not just about the whole family dynamic. Of course, that's the bonus, and you want that there. Mm-hmm. But people got to also look at incoming wives as people who are looking to get married too, not just to come join a family. Yeah. I'm just saying. I just put that out there, because it's always that type of mentality or mindset that seems like that's what it has to be in order for that to be the case. People don't understand that there's a difference.
Jamil, what up to love the kids from the UAE? Yeah. You see, keep Mike on the scenes. All right. So Kit says, women seem to be masters at passive aggressiveness. True. How do the two of you handle that between yourselves?
We're not passive aggressive with one another. The nice thing about who we are as individuals is that we've always been cordial to one another. We've never gotten into it, never argued, never called each other out, never squared up, none of that, because we're mature. And not only that, as Muslims, we're going to be held accountable for that. So we didn't want to, that was not on our mind. So we don't enter and go, how can I be passive aggressive with her today? Like that, I don't know. We just don't do it because we know this is not just happening to us. We don't have a desire to do it. It's not something from our Islamic culture. It's not something that we're interested in. And how does that serve you? Like, what do you get out of that? Because it damn sure doesn't make you look attractive to the husband when you go at it with each other. And last time I checked, to me, it's something that doesn't show much class when there's all these, not just passive aggression, there's these little microaggressions, and then there's aggressive anger and rage issues and all kinds of stuff. We've never done that, because I also think it's because too, we were willing to talk to one another about topics that were not easy to talk about, just between us two. And then we didn't make Coach Nazir the subject matter. When we sat down and talked, we kind of got to know each other, and it was a very organic thing. And then we took away the judgment in the conversation, and that mattered too. So that helped us a lot.
Yeah, definitely taking away judgment and looking at yourself, and what you got to be a better you. So how do you handle passive aggressiveness? Because sometimes other people can see it and you don't. You're like, oh, dang, I didn't realize I was doing that. Right. But it's being able to be self-aware. So being self-aware and knowing that you want better and you want to connect. Now, we want to connect. So it's not just communicating. It's not just seeing each other. It's not just being around each other. It's like we bond, we connect, and that was a decision that was made, between us. That was a decision that we both made. And when you make a decision, you work on seeing that all the way through. And that means working on yourself, and that means being self-aware. When even those type of things could possibly come up, whether it's jealousies or, maybe passive aggressiveness that you may have just actually picked up along your life because that's what you do. And people are like, what? Hey, you kind of did that. And just being aware and being, open to critique. So
I think that's what we do. We make sure we are not, so that it is that practicing self-awareness, or, I had to learn that to my family, where just me, Coach Nazir, and our kids, I'm used to that. So when somebody else goes, ooh, they're intense, ooh, they're intimidated, I'm like, for real? And then I had to go, well, then what is it? Why? Some people just say it to just be petty or to be mean or just try to assume that they know something they don't. And some people are like, no, y'all are intense, like the two of y'all. And then I said, okay, well, then if that's the case with the people that I really love, then how can I kind of be better at not being so intense or coming off as intimidating or whatever the case may be? So it's kind of pulling back on the people that are not, that they're new and they're like, okay, I don't know how to read it. And if they're not there yet, then I'll go, let me initiate conversation then. So if I'm coming off like that, let me go say hello or whatever the case may be. So yeah, it is a lot of self-awareness. Tons.
Another question. Sister says, I actually have a friend that's going through struggles from both her work and home and marriage, but she isn't good at taking advice. Should we listen to them without advising? Just keep a distance.
One thing I'm going to say is let it be known. I would like that. I have a number of people, one particular person in my life, I love her, and we do. She don't listen. She wants advice, but she doesn't listen. So, but she know I'm the one that she can come to that's going to give it to her straight. No chaser. So yeah, she knows that. But my thing is, I start telling her, I'm like, are you really going to listen? Are you going to? I call it out.
You gotta call it out.
Sometimes you just got to call it out. So maybe they're not aware that they're doing it. I always give people the benefit of the doubt. I just do. You know, sometimes people don't mean the benefit of the doubt, but I just do, because I can never say that. You know, I don't know what they're going through. I don't know what they're thinking of, or whatever the case may be. They might not even be aware. They may not be self-aware. Mm-hmm. There are many times that I'm not aware of the things that I do. So when it comes down to it, just being able to call it out, call a spade, like they say, and then let them know. Eventually, they're either going to stop coming to you for advice. I've had some people do that too, because they're like, you know what, all she's going to do is say this anyway. If you're not listening to what I'm saying, don't waste my time. Let them know.
And to be clear, that's not anything related to polygyny, because we don't talk to our friends about that.
Yeah.
At all. If they want advice regarding polygyny, we got courses for that. We have counseling, we have coaching, but you're not gonna pick our brains. That's Hannibal do that.
We talk shit. Yeah, you're right. Yes, we did. Right. We talk about it only in that with friends. Like, I know I talk about polygyny with a friend of mine, but it goes to the point of, I love it, and I need a king, and he got to be the king of Wakanda for me to do it.
You counseling,
but we're having a conversation about why it works and what's beneficial. I'm not teaching her anything, but we do have a conversation as just friends in support of polygyny.
Home life and business and stuff.
Normalize it says uncle.
Ooh, Lord, again. Not the gray
I
hairs.
became the uncle now. Oh,
well, we're the
man.
auntie.
Not the
You see these
uncle.
grays. Uncle. You have been blessed. Indeed, two level-headed women. That's a great blessing. SubhanAllah. Indeed.
He said level-headed or big-headed.
All right.
Both.
Or
No,
I know I have a coconut head. That's all right.
So Zaima says, I'm part of my sister, keep up the excellent work. It's a necessary work. You're all my favorite examples of modern times, how the sister live with the responsibility of polygyny. I continue to keep your love big and strong. Allahumma ameen. That was a question. All right, Abdul Shakur, if your dean is right, you don't have to worry about money. I don't agree with that.
So, guys, also, if you do have questions, make sure you put question marks in front and behind them, so we know what the questions are, so we can get to the questions faster. Because we're going through and sifting through the comments.
Question.
You know, but question. Yeah, there we go. Question.
Yeah. But the comments again, our dear sister says, for me, it's all about the development aspect. You got to be bigger, you got to be gracious, you got to be passionate, you got to be disciplined. Yes, sis. Yes. Time to yourself. I love that idea. I've never experienced it, but my soul says this life is for me. Allah Ta'ala make your soul, make you feel healthy for you, dear sis. And be sure to join our community. If you're not already on our email list, you want to get on that, because we're going to announce it and send invitation only links out next week, inshallah. And we do have brothers and sisters who let us know that they are looking. We're not matchmakers, we ain't trying to matchmake, but Allah Ta'ala knows best how you may be able to meet someone that qualifies. Yo, bro. Inshallah. Okay, so our dear sister says, how should a young man who has intention to take on responsibility of polygyny approach the role when he is courting a sister? She let him know of his intentions. She chooses to make based on her willingness to do polygyny. All right, so sounds like he's not even married at all. So a young man who has intention to take on the responsibility approach the role when he is courting a sister. She let her know of his intention. She chooses to make based off her willingness to do polygyny. It depends. The whole courting thing is a whole training and all that kind of stuff in and of itself, right? Because courting in Islam looks like this person has a chaperone with them. You ask questions, you're trying to get to know, but there's a third party that's there, right? And you need to be upfront and direct. So absolutely, she'll let her know, try to find out, let her know where you stand and where you at. There's no need to, listen, men, and I say it a lot, and I really want you to understand it. Men are seduced by their eyes. Women are seduced by their ears. There's no need to go and tell somebody something, what you're doing, this and this and that, get all interested and so on and so forth, and build this emotion that just is going to be deflated. If you ain't already said, look, this is my position, this is where I stand, it needs to be black and white, straight up front. All right. If you already know that. Keyword, if you already know that. Well, that's not a keyword, keywords. If you already know it. I got married at 19. It wasn't a thought. I know there must be practice it. I wasn't thinking about it. Never knew anybody who did practice it. Wasn't really a thought. 15 years later, it was different. You know what I'm saying? So there's that growth and evolution that goes on. But had I known it, and even if I didn't know it, we encourage people now, if you're watching our videos, you're going to know, don't talk about polygyny from the now when you want to practice it. Talk about it, period. Before you get married, talk about it. When you get married, talk about it. Even if it's not your intention, talk about it. See who you marry. Where's her mind at? You know what I'm saying? Have the discussion. Get over the fear. Teach your children about it. It's simply a form of marriage. And if you let them know about polygyny, you educate them about monogamy, where the stuff came from, they're educated enough to be able to deal with situations. People wrongfully think or assume that all children are just going to be just lambasted and so on and so forth, as though monogamy ain't already caused it. So stop with the land and make believe stuff. Nevertheless, going on to it, being upfront. If that's your intention, don't waste her time. Don't waste your time. She may be open to it, seeing what you can do or whatnot, but one, to be open and honest from the get, that's something that's respectable and commendable to begin with, even if you're not gonna be with that person. So that would be my answer to that. Should you choose a mate based off her willingness to practice polygyny? If you let her know up front, then that would make more sense. You know, if you're trying to go and change somebody, that's not worth it. What's the, listen, how many people you gonna marry? You can only marry up to 4 at one time. There are many women that are available. You know what I'm saying? Men have more choice and selection of women than women have of men, at least quality wise. So with that being said, put out there what you're looking for. Put out what you're looking for, and prayerfully you'll receive that. And it's attractive. Discuss with your sister while you could be honest. Yes. Because inspiration, thank you for being the tip of the spear. Inshallah. We pray we're as good as you assume. But we don't believe the hype. You know what I'm saying? We're just doing what we can do and prayerfully empower other people because we didn't have those resources available to us. That is all the questions, which is cool because it's getting late for us. We're on almost 2 hours. Hours. So with that being said, look, polygamymasterclass.com if you want to get some more high-level education on polygyny, be able to download the worksheets, the audios, have direct access to us through email, or if you want counseling or coaching. Yeah, it's time to wrap this up. Counseling or coaching, coachfatimah.com, coachnyla.com. Definitely go there and see what the word is. If you're serious. Coaching, you know what I'm saying? Right. So with that being said, we appreciate y'all sticking in with us. Please share the information. All right, leave a comment or whatnot. That helps with the algorithm, helps us get the word out and whatnot. If you are interested in getting more information or being in the know with what we do in our own private community, where it is supportive, where we do have people of like mind participating in discussions, we don't have to worry about outsiders and trolls and all that kind of stuff, then get on our email list at outstandingpersonalrelationships.com or go to polygamymasterclass.com, download the polygamy roadmap or 3 ways to be successful in polygyny, and you'll automatically get notified next week when we go ahead and let you know we're going live and we're inviting our first few people only on our email list where they get invitations. So if you're not, you're just on YouTube, that's cool. You don't have to be in the community, but if you want to be in the community with some people who are working with men to become men of value and kings and women to live life at a higher level and for everybody to be developing higher, more fulfilling relationships, then I suggest you get there. If not, that's cool too. Nevertheless, anything else, ladies? Close with before we wrap up? Just some GLC, that's it.
That's it. All right. Make sure you are growing intentionally,
loving fearlessly,
and connecting on a higher level every single day. Assalamu alaikum, y'all. Peace. You got manually